welcome back to another episode of the Dwelling Tiger podcast. Or maybe I should say, welcome if you're new here. This is kind of like a first date for us too, right? It's first time meeting each other. You get to know me, I get to know you. Well, you know what I mean. For some of us, it may be our second date, maybe our third date. Ooh, I'm glad we're still in this relationship, right? I'm glad that we're still sticking it together. I'm glad that we're interested in each other, right? Seeing how this bond, takes off in the near future. Who knows? So if you're new here, go check out episode 1 where I introduce myself and the podcast and pretty much tell you about what this podcast entails. If you don't want to go check it out, that's okay. I'll just say briefly that this podcast is about talking about anything we dwell on, whether it be bizarre, awkward to talk about, just controversial, anything really, just any kind of topic that we want to talk about usually, but probably just don't really express it to others. And I want to make this as authentic, raw, genuine, real, unfiltered as possible with that respect and maturity. Wink, wink. So today, I'm feeling really good. I mean, just this weekend, I gotta tell ya, this weekend I felt like crap. I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, I'll just mention it. I've been coming back into the dating scene, and this time is the first time where I'm going to try to be persistent, right? I won't give up. I won't lose faith. I'll just persevere and work, because I realized and understood more so that dating takes a lot of work. So this weekend I did something which you guys will find out later. I'll announce it towards the end of the episode, but you guys will find out that something happened over the weekend, and it involved kind of like a dating event, and it's just, oh my god, that just made me want to give up forever. I just want to crawl back in my lab, in my bedroom, in my training hole, whatever, right? Whatever my safe haven is, and just give up. I don't want to think about dating anymore. Why do I need to think about girls? Why do I need to think about romance? I just need to focus on myself. But I can't, right? I promised myself I should be more persistent. I should be more willing to just put myself out there, right? Don't give up. But anyways, because I'm feeling good today, despite of what happened this weekend, which again, you guys will find out towards the end of the episode, or not really, but you'll find out how to find out pretty much. I'm feeling good. And today, I want to make this episode make you guys feel good. So going off of the last week's episode 2, where I was talking about my end of the year reflections, which touch base on my rough patches throughout the lockdown and how I came out of it. It was quite the downer. I know that it was supposed to be more serious episode, and I want to make today's episode, a little bit more positive, right? And I'm not gonna say silly or fun, right? I'll just say positive, and you can take it however it's portrayed, right? However I portray it, you interpret it however you want to. So today, for this episode, I will actually be going off of last week's episode on something I touched base on, which was what helped me, 1, get out of the hole I was in, that I dug myself, into as well, and then 2, how am I keeping up with the things that I should be doing or want to do, despite maybe losing motivation or maybe some like that willpower to continue doing the things I should or want to do. Or even if life throws those obstacles, left and right, up and down, diagonally at you. Maybe it's a bowling ball, who knows? Life is throwing shit at you like a monkey at the zoo. And even when that happens, hopefully it doesn't happen in real life, right? Monkey throwing poo-poo. There are ways to counteract that. There are ways to persevere and get through the mud, right? I'm not going to say poop anymore because that's quite disgusting. I don't want to give you guys that image, all right? But yes, I want to talk about that more so in depth, because I think it can help people a lot. I would hear from podcasts or self-help books, self-help podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever, that, okay, you should be doing what you need to do. this thing helped me, get the motivation. This thing helped me understand that. You hear a lot of that stuff. So today, I want to dive really into this because I don't think it's really explained all too much. Nor is there like enough examples that are given, or like a variety of examples given where you can understand how to apply these, skills or these positive advice given about self-help, right? Whether it's for getting yourself out of this hole or situation that you're in and starting the things that you should be doing or want to do, and or continuing to do the things you want to, or / need to do despite having those obstacles in life. Now, let's talk about that. That actually kind of sounds like, that sounds so familiar actually. It sounds like Good Mythical Morning. Yes, I used to watch that a lot. Let's talk about that. Oh wow. Sorry, nostalgia trip. Woo. Well, anyways, let's talk about that. Now, I want to break this up into two parts. One is just talking about and diving into how and what got me out of the hole I was in. Whether it was due to the pandemic itself in combination with family trauma and just my personal issues itself. I want to talk about what helped me get out of that hole, right? And then start to get the engine running again in regards to what I need to do and what I want to do. And then the second part I want to talk about is what is helping me maintain consistently doing the things I should be doing / want to do. That's a different story. It's not, it doesn't require too much in-depth, thinking and, a whole complex system, and it's not a whole journey in my opinion. It's just some tidbits that can help you maintain that drive to continue the things you should be doing. Now, before I get into the first part, right, what helped me get out of the hole I was in, I want to preface this by saying the two podcasts that really helped me out that I discovered were called Asian Boss Girl, which was the first one I discovered, and then the other one is called Perfectly Imperfect. Now, those two podcasts, unlike what the name may suggest, they are, one, hosted by Asian American women, and two, they are so raw, authentic, relatable, just genuine, nice, mature, and respectful. Just what I try to bring to the table with this podcast. It's super relatable and insightful and just fun to listen to even. And I really got a lot of insight and advice from them, and even personal understandings from their stories when they shared them. Now, what helped me specifically was a particular episode, I believe, called Finding Hope on Asian Boss Girl, where the three hosts, Janet, Helen, and Mel, they each talked about their experiences and struggles and even things that helped them get out of this rut they were in and, getting back on the saddle throughout this pandemic. And hearing three perspectives from three different people was very insightful and even eye-opening when I tried to apply it to my own situation. So what I kind of learned from listening to this episode in a nutshell, and I'll even go into the specifics, is that I was looking at my situation from a very narrow point of view, right? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're struggling with a situation they're in, almost regardless of what that situation is, they don't realize other variables that are holding them back or that are causing them this distress. And no matter how much reflection and speculation and just thinking and intuition they use to like understand the situation they're in and to handle it ultimately, you're not going to probably see all the variables that, even if there are maybe a few variables that you're missing, those variables can still be very key important ones that can truly help you get out of this rut you're in. And that's what happened with me by listening to this podcast, where I was able to see these missing variables that I was missing and that were actually ultimately life-changing in some way or another. So those variables, in a sense, were me realizing that I was being depressed and lonely mainly because I was missing social interaction. And that was something I was always somewhat aware of, but never really truly understood. Like it was on the back of my mind where like I know that I want to interact with people, yeah, like, you know, we're social creatures, whatever, but like I didn't realize how much that actually affected me, because, you know, throughout college, starting somewhat in the middle of high school, I was always trying to become that lone wolf, right? Someone who was just truly independent, doesn't ask for help, you know, does everything by himself. And that's why I try to like really reinforce with my thinking and my lifestyle, and just my work style even. But listening to, I believe it was Helen's story, where she, like me, doesn't really talk about her feelings, or nor does she like to do that even. I'm the same way. I don't like to talk about my feelings, not because I don't find it to be uncomfortable or weird for me to do that, but I just don't want to lay it on other people, because I feel like I just don't want to lay that kind of burden on other people for whatever reason. And so I just never really wanted to do that. But I found out and realized that when Helen says she was talking to her friends, Melody and Janet, you know, the other host of the podcast, Asian Boss Girl, she found it really helpful. And that made me think, oh, wait, maybe I'm missing like social interaction. Maybe that's like the thing that's really affecting me right now. Because what I would usually do when I feel like lonely, depressed, and all those negative feelings is just fill myself with work. And I did that even in college, where I would take up more shifts during my tutoring job to just drown out the negative feelings, right? With the satisfaction and the fulfillment I had from tutoring students, you know, seeing that light bulb, helping them out, all that stuff. But I never really like satisfied the craving that's always been there for social interaction, to just make friends, to meet people, all that kind of stuff. And listening to Helen's story, even though it's maybe not as a significant like statement in a sense, I mean, out of the entire podcast, maybe it was one little thing she mentioned, it really reached out to me and made me like have an epiphany. Wow, like I probably need social interaction. Like I want this. Like I really want this. Like it was so profound to me. And that actually helped me just muster up the courage, take that step forward to either reach out to old friends or people whom I'm acquainted with, or to just, you know, reciprocate those who have reached out to me. Because in other cases, I would just probably ignore them, or man, I feel like a d-bag just for just thinking that. But yes, I mean, a total d-bag move of me, but I reciprocated nonetheless, and I, you know, apologized, I believe, and just talked about my situation as well, you know, why I was like ghosting or ignoring people. So that blur from Helen helped me realize that I was missing that social interaction, and that expressing my story, expressing my experiences and struggles to other people was truly helpful. It just really lessened the load off my shoulders. And I was, for the first time ever, with at least two of my close friends from freshman year and sophomore year, I opened up my struggles and my mental health issues that I experienced throughout college. It just felt great that they, who are my friends, you know, I was able to just express myself to them. And it wasn't like I wasn't able to before, but it felt great. And this is the first time I truly understood and realized having friends and family to whom you can talk about these things with is honestly one of the best things you can have. And you should not just think that you should just be a lone wolf, or that you don't need to talk to people because maybe you're too cool. I mean, who knows, right? For your own justified reasons, you know, whatever you think of, you should definitely just reach out to people and muster up the courage to just reach out to people, right? Just reach out to them, reconnect, and then if they have the capacity and the time, you can express yourself to them. And I'm sure, regardless, they would be willing to listen to you and happy that you're actually opening up. Because that was the case with me. Yeah, so listening to Helen about where she did not like to open up to people, but when she did that with her friends, it helped her a lot. It made me realize I was missing that social interaction, just human interaction in general. And that actually ultimately helped me in the end, but when I reached out or reciprocated to others. The other part about that episode that helped me was Janet's and Mel's stories, I believe. Again, I don't remember all the specifics, but what I realized was when they were talking about their experiences, their struggles, it made me think about my struggles from a different perspective. And I was always, again, like I mentioned earlier, just always wallowing in what I was kind of seeing from surface value or just from my narrow point of view as I was in my situation, without actually expanding that perspective so that I can try to see the bigger picture of things. But I think just by listening to all three of this, their stories from Asian Boss Girl, their stories just helped me look at my situation from a bigger perspective, right? In the grand scheme of things, where I realized like my situation is not that bad, because before, with my narrow point of view, I was thinking like I was just truly imprisoned in this household, that my mother was being a true dictator or whatever, right? Being a Kim Jong mom. And I was even thinking stuff like, if I just made up scenarios, for example, that just got me even more depressed and distressed, where, for example, I would think, okay, if I just want to simply go to get, let's say, some fast food, let's say from McDonald's or something simple, right? Just because I'm feeling depressed, but I also just want to treat myself a little bit. I was thinking, oh, but I know mom won't let me go. She won't let me go. And just thinking that really got me like upset, like on an irrational level, because it was something made up in my head, just me thinking it and thinking of the likelihood that may happen. But again, it may not happen. Maybe she'll let me go, she has proven me wrong regarding the things I would think of in my head. There's just these delusions I would think of. So I would look at my situation from a wider and a bigger perspective, where I can see, oh wait, I'm not in as bad of a situation as I thought I was in. And in order to do that, you need to look from an outsider perspective. And that's what I was and what I had when I was listening to these stories. Or like, if you have a friend who goes to you for, let's say, dating advice, and they're asking like, hey man, or hey girl, or whomever, like, hey man, like, hey friend, I'm having trouble with like my significant other. Like, I just don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like we're things are great, but like something's like just feels wrong. And that person just doesn't know, right? Because they're in their situation and they're having a narrow point of view on it itself, right? Everyone has it. It's no one's fault. It's just something natural, I believe. And then as a friend, you have that outsider perspective where you can see the entire picture, right? From both the inside and the out, right? For the most part, at least. And you can offer your 2 cents, your perspective and observations to your friend. And then your friend can be like, oh, and then you can open up your friend's perspective on their situation. And then they can understand, that's why things aren't working out. That's why I've been feeling, weird about my, my significant other. Like, okay, I get it now. So again, when I listened to this podcast in particular, that was really similar to my situation of, having these struggles in COVID times, I was able to gain a bigger perspective, right, of my own situation and the various things about my situation, like even regarding my mother, like how to deal with my mother, how to deal with not doing the things I should be doing career-wise, right? Because I was just stagnant. I'm not making any progress in my career. I'm just at home doing honestly nothing. Was playing games, like I mentioned, binging stuff, whatever. I was doing nothing. And I believe Mel also talked about that as well in the podcast episode, where she went back home, I believe for Father's Day. And when she was back home in her bedroom, she felt like depressed, even more so, I believe, or helpless, because, she felt like things didn't change, right? Everyone else is moving along in their lives. Everyone else is probably adapting way better and making the best of this pandemic. But she herself felt like she was not moving, right? She was stagnant like me. But that wasn't the case, right? As an outsider, I was like, oh, but Mel, that's not the case. Like, based off the story you told me and the experiences you told me thus far, I know that's not the case. You are definitely so ahead in your career. You're so successful thus far in this point in your life. Like, just keep going. Like, I was like rooting for her, and I just wanted to tell her that. But I'm sure she already knew that, and she was already told that. But I tried to apply this as well to myself, and I was like, oh, Joey, like, you're not going to be left behind. You're not going to be stagnant. But what you can do is just work on the stuff you know you should be doing, and anything you can do for what is worth during this pandemic. And that was another thing I learned from this episode. One of the overarching, I guess, themes or messages I kind of received from this episode, listening to all three of their stories, Janet's, Helen's, and Melody's stories. They were just saying, like, okay, when they were down in the low point of their life during the pandemic, and again, actually, let me state this too, they all quit their jobs and committed full time to this podcast, Asian Boss Girl, before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. So they were still working on Asian Boss Girl when the pandemic hit, but then they realized, okay, they need to like rev up the engine even more so. They need to like step up, and they need to get back on the saddle and go, full on with this podcast and work on it. When they, mentioned that they were in a low point in their life, but they still, told themselves to get back on the saddle, do the things they need to be doing, and even more so, I gained like some motivation from that, where I was thinking, okay, even though I'm in this situation, regardless of how bad it was at the time, I need to just get back on the saddle, rev up the engine, and then some more, and then get at it. I need to do that. So this podcast, especially this episode, Finding Hope, again, like for the 5th time, really helped me understand my situation from different perspectives. And in a sense, I was able to realize and dive deeper into my situation on a larger scale, right, in the bigger picture, so that I can move on from these negative feelings, or in a sense eliminate them, right, make them go away, so that I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling like the burden's lessened. Now, with all that said, listening to these two podcasts, Asian Boss Girl and Perfectly Imperfect, especially listening to the episode Finding Hope by Asian Boss Girl, really just helped clear up the muck and all of the, or not all, but most of the negative thoughts and feelings that I just harbored and heavily dwelled on for the longest time, by providing me with these newer, fresher, different, and even deeper perspectives and understandings regarding my own situation. And I really recommend anyone else who is looking for, relatability, just to feel less alone about their situation, or insight in general, by listening to these podcasters or, YouTubers who you like, right? Not anyone, just people you like, because just listening to another person's story in general really does help with the whole situation that you're dealing with, regardless of what it may be. Now, with all the muck I mentioned that was cleared up and emptied out, that was filled in with more positive attitudes and thoughts by revisiting old YouTube channels or, watching new ones. So I mentioned back in episode 2 of this podcast where I revisited an old YouTube channel called Wong Fu Productions. And if you don't know who they are, they're a media production company that aims to bring about more Asian American representation in media. And they, make their own shorts and films that are very entertaining and relatable, especially in the, romance world. With, dating in college to dating outside of college, or, as an adult. Very relatable and entertaining stuff. I really enjoyed them back in high school. And they were kind of like my dating Bible back then. Like, I would go to them for the relatability and some insight. And they were just probably even more so relatable when I entered college, right? Because it's a new world, it's a new scene. So I would go to them for all the advice, in a sense. But nonetheless, like, when I revisited them, it reminded me of all the good times back in my life. While I was watching Wong Fu Productions and some other YouTube channels, but more so Wong Fu Productions, those were times where I was happy with my life. I was happy with my career and academics and the progress I was making. I was happy with like the little but still existing social circle I was a part of. And overall, I was just really happy and content back then. So by revisiting these old YouTube channels or even some new ones, especially regarding like athletics and such, it really helped replace the negative muck and the sludge with more positive and encouraging attitudes and thoughts that just got my engine revving up again. So that led all to revamping and restarting my training, like I mentioned, doing the stuff that I wanted to do, like with podcasting and whatever else there was. Overall, those two things, listening to the podcast and revisiting and watching new YouTube channels or old ones, just overall helped me got out of this hole that I was in. So yeah, there's my 2020 Christmas how to get yourself out of a rough patch casserole. Right? Step number 1, listen to a podcast, YouTuber, or whomever, where they share their own stories and struggles and tell you how they handled the situation so that you can relieve some of the delusions, the stress, the negative thoughts that you're harboring. And then number 2, do something, watch something, listen to something, whatever it is that is enjoyable for you so that you can get that burst or just that positivity filling you up, right? There you got it. 2-step recipe for that. Get yourself out of a rough situation, rough patch casserole for Christmas. Take it into the new year. You don't have my word if it tastes good. But, with all seriousness, I do hope this is insightful and does help you out. It's something that I was always wanting to look for when I was in a rough patch, is people whom I can relate to or whom they can share their thoughts on their struggles and how they got out of them themselves, and where they talk about in depth. So I hoped I provided that for you guys. Now, going into the second part of this episode is talking about how to maintain or being consistent with doing the things you should be doing / want to do. That is a different story. It's not something that is of much of a challenge in my opinion. It is a challenge, in its own respect, but it's not as dreadful and probably more challenging as, getting yourself out of a rough patch, right? Like what we just talked about. This is requiring you to either have a strong mental fortitude, that discipline, that willpower, that drive to do the things you should be doing, even though it's hard, it's not fun anymore, or maybe life throws other obstacles at you. And perhaps you're just not having the excitement anymore when doing these stuff. Whatever the case may be, it is tough to maintain and be consistent with the things you should be doing / want to do. So let me just quickly share like what I do and what I've gone through regarding this kind of situation. When I started training again, and let's say doing podcasting, I'll just talk about those two, for example. Over like maybe 3 weeks of doing this or, working on it nonetheless, I kind of felt like the excitement and the thrill was waning off, right? It wasn't completely gone. It wasn't like a sugar rush where like you feel that rush of energy, the excitement, and then it goes down, and then you feel sluggish, like you had pasta for lunch and you have that food coma and don't want to do work or study anymore. It wasn't like that. It was more like it just kind of waned down gradually, and I was... I would say I have a pretty good discipline, and I'm willing and able to do the things I should be doing regardless of how I feel, because as long as I know that this is what I should be doing and I know that for sure, then I'll do it, even if I feel like, oh, I don't want to do it today. It's too cold outside. I don't want to go run. I don't want to go train, whatever. I'll just stay in bed, go on YouTube. I'm not going to do that because I know myself and I know I should be getting my butt off the bed or the couch. Nonetheless, that may be harder for other people to do, right? So one suggestion I have, and one thing that I actually do as well, is I try to make things more exciting again. And with that, you have to really just do your own research and look up things to make whatever it is you're doing, whether it's due to a need or a want, to make it more exciting again. For example, for me, when I'm doing my fitness stuff, I think having a goal, actually for anything really, for both podcasting, fitness, and everything else, having a goal really makes things more exciting and more manageable to do. Because I feel like if I have a goal, at least I know when the end point is, at least for that segment of this whole journey. So regards to fitness, I'm doing this like I mentioned this in episode 2. It's like functional mobility strength training program. It's a 6-week long program. And just knowing that it's 6 weeks long, it makes me feel like, okay, I can get through these 6 weeks. And what makes it exciting is the anticipation of what will happen to my body, how will I look, and how will I feel by the end of these 6 weeks of doing this program alone. So that makes me just want to push myself and just really get the results that I am anticipating by the end of those 6 weeks. When I think about those 6 weeks ending, right, a lot of times it may feel like you're depressed again in some way or another, like, oh, this ended, now what do I do? Do it again. For me, at least, I mean, for a lot of fitness programs, I would think that there's like 3 levels, like a beginner, intermediate, and advanced level of doing these workouts in these programs. So I've been doing more or less like a mixture of the intermediate and the advanced movements for this program. And now my next goal is, by the time the 6 weeks is up, I'm going to redo this program, which is called, let me actually give them a shout out. I think it's the On It 6 Bodyweight 6-week program. And I'm going to redo this whole program again to just purely do all of the advanced movements. Oh my God. I don't know what that's going to be like, but I am truly excited and thrilled to do it. Like, I want these 6 weeks to finish up already so I can redo it again. That's how excited I feel. If you're not in a program, go get one. I mean, I suggest just doing it anyway, because it really does help motivate yourself and find that thrill for fitness again, right? You may want to say like, oh, if I want to get the most out of this program, hey, maybe I'll adding, walking 10,000 steps a day to see like, okay, what would the effects be like of doing this program by itself and or doing this program in addition to walking 10,000 steps a day? Maybe I'll look even way better. See, once you start thinking that way and adding some other stuff that are, that's challenging but also manageable, like doing 10,000 steps a day isn't that bad, you become more excited, in my opinion, and you then become more motivated. So that helps me, at least with the fitness side of things. Another example with fitness, at least, is doing a challenge, right? Looking forward to do a challenge. I was looking at like 100,000 step challenges on YouTube recently. Like, I've been in a short phase of looking those up. And I just felt really inclined to do a challenge as well. Like, there's these 4x4x48 David Goggins fitness challenge. There's the, like I said, the 100,000 step K challenge. So I want to do these challenges, right? I'm like thinking about doing them, and just thinking about the possibility of doing it makes me feel excited to an extent. So that, let's say by next week, Saturday, I tell myself, I'm going to do 100,000 steps. So in the days leading up to that Saturday, I feel more excited and will prepare myself to, and even mentally, to participate in this challenge and complete it. And if I complete it, hey, maybe you feel like a lot of motivation just for the fact of completing it. And that makes you want to do even more fitness stuff, or just continue the fitness journey that you're on, right? Just for the sake of doing another or even crazier challenge. Who knows? I'm just saying that these things, these different variables, either having a goal where you can like change things up, or having these challenges, just all these variables can really boost the excitement and the thrill of the stuff you're doing again, or even more so than, relative to the beginning of this journey that you started on. Now, aside from fitness, let's say we're talking about a creative outlet. For my example, it's going to be podcasting. I'm not saying podcasting is dying out for me, right? This is something still very new for me, very recent journey that I started on. And this is only going to be my 3rd episode. So I'm not really feeling like the excitement is gone, but I do just want to make these more excited, right? I just want to make it more fun for me than what it is currently. So one way by doing that, and then here's an announcement, right? Earlier in the episode, I mentioned that I did something over the weekend that made me feel like, oh, I don't want to think about dating again, or girls, like, what do I need to think about romance? Here's how you can find out what happened over the weekend. And that's by listening to a new series called Morning Tea. And it's gonna upload every Friday. And these are going to be shorter episodes, like maybe 15 minutes long. At least that's what I'm aiming for. Maybe 20 minutes, if not. I mean, I don't want to do longer, but these are going to be short episodes where I pretty much I spill the tea on myself, whether it's in regards to like college stories, like, dating stories, experiences and all that. Or my thoughts on, controversial topics. And, it's just fun to talk about that stuff. Right, on controversial topics and trendy topics and whatnot. It's just, I think they're fun. I can let off some steam and vent and or just spill the tea, right? I love spilling the tea. I love that chisme, that girl talk, It's very healthy as long as the tea is not scalding hot and is being poured on someone where it can leave burn scars. That's not good tea. That's just boiling water being thrown at someone. I mean, it might as well, right? So I like to spill the tea nonetheless. It feels good, and that's what the series Morning Tea on Fridays will be about. And this upcoming Friday, I will be sharing what happened with me over this weekend and other dating like stories regarding that's similar to what happened over this weekend on other platforms like dating profiles and such. Ooh la la. But yes, big announcement, Morning Tea every Friday. Juicy, that was a weird way to say it. Juicy, steamy, thrilling stories to get you hyped for the weekend, right? It's Friday, almost weekend. Now, going back to this episode, by working on this new series, Morning Tea on Fridays, wink wink, it makes things more exciting because one, I have a new thing, like a new goal, right? Every Friday, I'm going to upload this short episode. Two, it's manageable. So it is fun because it's not like it's an overwhelming amount of work that I'm having to put into, right? Because of two things. One, these are shorter episodes. They're not going to take up a lot of time in recording and even editing. And two, these are going to be topics that I love to talk about. It's spilling the tea, for goodness sake. Who doesn't like to do that? I mean, I'm sure there's, some people who don't like to do it. But, I mean, for those who know what I'm talking about and like to spill the tea, you get what I mean. They're fun to talk about. You can probably go on for hours, for a long time. And I have to do it in 15 minutes. But nonetheless, those 15 minutes are going to go fast. They're going to be fun. I'm going to have a lot of stuff to share and details. Again, wink, wink. So for podcasting, at least, for this creative outlet that I'm starting and exploring, that's what I'm doing to make things more exciting. And again, it's not like the excitement and the thrill was already waning out. I mean, I still love to do these more serious topics, these other bizarre, mental health or life-related topics on Tuesdays. These are fun for me too. They're entertaining, they're refreshing. But having those Friday episodes are going to add a different kind of spice, right? It's a different kind of excitement. So it keeps me motivated, it keeps my drive and engine revved up, if not even more so. So again, I feel like having a goal or coming up with different stuff that can make the things you're already doing more exciting is important. That can help you become more consistent and especially look forward to doing them every day or, whatever schedule you have set on doing those things that you should be doing or want to do. Now, like I mentioned back in episode 2, please do not solely depend on the motivation, the thrill, the excitement for continuing the things you should be doing or want to do. They are just temporary feelings that will gradually and naturally wane off. And I'm not saying that you have to be in love with the stuff you're doing every single day, right? Like if you find yourself not enjoying whatever it is you're doing as much as you were maybe in the beginning of it all, that's totally fine. It works out. The most important thing you should ask yourself at those times is, hey, is this work? Is the pain, is the, whatever it is that's uncomfortable, is it all worth it in the end? Is it still worth doing, right? For like, say, some kind of sports training, like for my triathlon training. I hate speed workouts on the track. I do not like them. I'd rather go on like a 13-mile long steady pace run, not a 4-mile like cut up segmented like speed workout on the track. But I know it's all worth it, so I am willing to do it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So again, do not depend on motivation or the excitement or the thrill of it all and constantly seek that out. Understand that you will have to build that discipline, the mental fortitude, the drive to just get at it, whatever it is that you're trying to get after. Please just do that. And even though I was talking at some length about finding and reigniting that excitement, the thrill again, I'm just putting that out there if you are truly finding it difficult to continue the things that you should be doing or want to do. Because I understand with fitness related stuff, it's hard to continue the things you should be doing, or to continue that run, to continue that fitness program, whatever it is you're doing. It's difficult to continue. So if you are finding yourself just really on the brink of giving up, and I don't want you to fail, that's where you can just reignite the excitement, refine that motivation again. But again, like I mentioned, do it as like a supplement, as a crutch. Don't depend on it. Just use it as a support pillar, and then find yourself lift off, fly off into the sky, and using your own discipline and mental fortitude to continue on this journey that you are on, right? So yeah, I just wanted to say that again, because that's super important to me. It's super important to life in general. That's it. That's the episode. Wow, again, we went around a little over 40 minutes, just like the episode 2, something I did not expect, and I found that this went by fast as well. Woo! I'm feeling good this Christmas week, and I hope everyone here has a wonderful Christmas week. Whether or not you are, or let me rephrase that, a happy holidays, right? I'm gonna be as inclusive as possible. Thank you everyone again so much for sticking around till the end of this episode. You can support me by listening to this podcast and following me on the anchor.fm/dwellintiger website, or by listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify, Google Podcasts, and now even on YouTube. And all you got to do is go to the search bar and type up Dwellin Tiger, which is spelled DWELLYN Tiger, and you'll find me definitely with that Photoshop tiger face on my body. If you also have any comments, questions, or topics that you'd like me to talk about, please email me at dwellintiger@gmail.com. DM me on Instagram at thejoeyll, which is spelled TheJoeyll, or message me either through text or a voice message on the anchor.fm website. Again, that was anchor.fm/dwellintiger. Thank you again, everyone, so much for listening and just sticking around for this episode 3. I'll talk to you again next time this Friday with some juicy deets on the new series Morning Tea. And I hope everyone has a safe and jolly holidays and a Merry Christmas.